Are you really better off stressed out when you're sober from weed? We all know by now that stress can actually impact our health in a negative way. It boosts cortisol, it also affects our adrenal glands, and it can have a profound effect even on different aspects of our health when it comes to digestion and overall gut health. These are some simple things that you could check into for yourself through Google and some basic searched studies. But let's face it, anxiety is actually something in your life that is useful. It's there for a particular reason. It's a built-in survival mechanism. And anxiety should really be a fleeting moment in your life. It should be something short-lived and not something that is predominant. Now, what I mean by that is it's no good for your health and it's no good for your mind to sit in a stressful state long term, because that in itself can have some very negative side effects, not just from the physical aspects, but for example, if you go through something highly stressful in your life, there is a huge chance that that can even affect your interpersonal relationships, your work relationships. It can affect your business. It can affect your family relationships. It can affect your intimate relationships. And just overall, it could affect your relationship that you have with yourself, as you may kind of have this burnout in your life that is causing you to maybe do less of the things that you need to be doing to tend to your mental health, such as some self-care routines, whether that's working out, going for a walk, spending time in nature, or some other variant. If you're always stressed out, your brain is not necessarily going to think of all the good things that you could be doing to improve your life. And if anything, you're going to be hyper focused on the very things that are making you uncomfortable in your life presently. But if you're stressed off of weed often and you're stressed on weed often, then something deeper is actually going on. This stress is there for a reason. It is built into our central nervous system as something that we can experience for a very legitimate reason. And again, if you ask most people, when they experience some kind of negative emotion, what is going on in their life, there tends to be a pretty good reason to why they're going through those things. Sometimes there's not, because it's more of a subconscious issue, and in the times where they have a general idea, it's still not the full picture. Because let's face it, if you knew what was going on to make you have this negative experience, wouldn't you just stop that thing from happening? Therefore, you wouldn't have anxiety, depression, or any other kind of negative emotional experience. So really what's going on is there's something underneath the surface when this becomes more of a theme in your life. It's not a fleeting moment. There's some need not being met. Therefore, this anxiety will still reside in your system for as long as it takes for you to figure out what that is. Now, when you spend years and years of your life escaping through marijuana how you feel, I don't like my job, I smoke on the job, or I don't like my job, and when I come home, the first thing I've already been thinking about for the most part of my day is lighting up another joint. So you do that for long enough, you are dissociating from your internal reality. And that's where things can get kind of dangerous, because if you keep escaping how you feel for days, weeks, months, etc., then you really run into, who are you? Do you really know who you are anymore? And can you pinpoint what's going on to cause this stress if you're really losing touch with who you are or what you may feel, because you're programming your central nervous system to ignore it, to push it down through smoking and escaping your reality. So, what's going to happen when more stressors get added to your life if you've already quit weed, but you have some general anxiety? Are you going to have the tools in your toolbox that actually allow you to succeed in adapting and overcoming that level of stress that gets added to your current level of stress? Because if you're not bringing that back down and managing how much stress is building in your life, then what are the chances that you're going to be able to stay sober long term? This is actually where the relapses happen for people, is they quit and they have the ability to stay sober for a degree of time, and that obviously varies from person to person. But then life kind of happens. People die. Your job might decide that it's going to lay off first shift, second shift, or third shift. You may have some other kind of experience, like your pet gets sick, or your significant other decides to leave this relationship, or you have issues within your family relationships. So, as certain things stack, because when someone passes, usually you're at a stage in your life where that's going to become more common. And as that becomes more and more common and frequent, if you're not able to kind of offload the level of stress in your central nervous system by knowing what you need to do such, and also have that internal feeling that drives you to do that, then your anxiety is going to keep building. And if it keeps building, the chances are that eventually you're not going to be able to overcome that or even function on some level to where it's always stressed out. And so it's very understandable why some people might turn to marijuana, because they feel buried. They feel like their life is actually just a burden at this point and there's really no way out of it. And so what they do is they get out of their situation through smoking, through escaping their internal reality, hoping that that will help them get through their external reality. And far too often, what I've found with some of the clients that I see is, if anything, when you escape your internal reality, those feelings that you have are gone. And therefore, the motivation on some level isn't as potent to change your reality. And that's where you find certain people stay at jobs longer than they should have, or stay in relationships longer than they should have. And they knew that they maybe should make an exit, that they should change some certain things in their life. But because they're disconnecting continuously with how they feel, and they also don't have the driving force behind them to be motivated to change their scenario, they kind of live the same life for months, years, and sometimes even decades in those same scenarios. And then when you're looking back a decade later and you're like, damn, I really haven't done anything with my life. I feel like I'm behind the curve. And if anything, I'm really not happy with the way things are. Is that going to help you quit marijuana even more? Or is that maybe going to even cause you to start maybe upping the amount that you smoke, because it's even more painful now that 12 years has passed, that you've just not gone where you thought you were going to go? So really, what is it that is going on in your life that is causing this relapse? Why do you continuously keep going back to this issue if you know why you're having these issues? Because this is just the way that our mind works. There is the conscious information that we have. There's things that we know we could do to change our reality or our circumstances, such as, let's say, maybe you need to diet and exercise more. And you know that, and I knew that because I used to be 310 pounds. And for over a decade now, I've actually kept 100 pounds off, and I've only gained back at most 10 pounds with intention behind it. Now, how was I able to do that? Was because I dealt with the inner subconscious stuff. Because let's face it, if you don't feel like going to the gym, and you don't find that you're enjoying that experience, you're going to avoid the things in your life that are uncomfortable. So that's where people like me come in as a professional, as I deal strictly with the subconscious stuff that you're not conscious about. You may have a general idea of why you continue to relapse, or a general idea of that it's anxiety that you struggle with. But if you don't deal with the subconscious issue, the anxiety will always be there. The relapses will continue. And how much longer can you keep avoiding this issue? What is the cost of this being in your life a year from now, 2 years from now, 3 years from now, and still having the same kind of results? Because as they say in a famous quote, is the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again, yet expecting a different result. So if you have not been successful in quitting marijuana, and quitting it meaning it's ceased, you don't no longer do it, if you're finding that you're relapsing, then you're not really quitting, you're just taking a temporary break, and then the subconscious stuff is bringing you back to that as a tool in your toolbox to help you through stressful times. If you actually want to deal with what's causing this stress in your life, reach out to me via Calendly link, and I'll be more than glad to have a short phone call session with you to at least get an idea if we would be a good match and if I could actually help you with this issue. So take care of yourself.